Now, I'll tell you the background of why do we need these strategic alliances. Because in international business, when two different countries come into an alliance, they will not be planning that for a shorter period. In fact, they will be coming or they will be thinking about an alliance only when it has a strategic perspective. Now, what do you mean by the strategic perspective? It is something that can take for a longer period. It can affect the future possibilities, the future development of your country. So it's planned for a longer period. When the planning is for a longer period, then we call that as strategic in nature. Okay. So today, the aspect which we are going to discuss is strategic alliances in the context of international business. So definitely that would be something which is engaged by different nations in the or maybe in the arena of international business for a longer period. Right? So that's the topic for our discussion. Moving further, when we look at strategic alliances, there are n number of categories and different types and different modifications to the models of strategic alliances. But in our class, as part of our syllabus, we would be discussing primarily these three. That is, turn the key. It's turnkey. Okay, turnkey projects, counter trade, EPRG framework. These are the three alliances which we would be discussing in our class. Of course, as we proceed, there are different other types of strategic alliances which will come as part of our discussion. But for the time being, we will keep with these three. Okay. Now, the first one, turn the key or turnkey. It is very easy for us to remember or connect it with the government projects, or as we say, the construction or infrastructure projects. So here, what is being taken up here in this case is the entire work is being done by an agency. In the international concept, it would be a foreign agency, and their intention is not to be here or to operate on that system or maybe to take the benefit of that infrastructure development. But the primary aim is once they finish the project, they will be handing over to the party to the party those they have given with, or to the party who have entrusted them with this work. So that is what we call as once you turn the key, you are giving it to the concerned party. So most of our big government projects happen in this mode. Either it can be through a national agency or it may be through a international agency. Now, when it happens in an international arena, when there is an alliance between two different bodies who are existent in two different countries, then we call the turn the key concept in the as a strategic alliance in international concept. The most common example is you might be building, you are going into building the housing facility. Maybe you have a flat construction or villa construction projects. You will give entrust that responsibility with an agency, with a construction agency, and they would be taking care of buying the land, or as you say, they would be doing all the work till the construction of these apartments. And once it is ready, they would be handing over it to the party at the decided price. So this is actually a good example of turnkey projects. Or you have maybe bridges. You construct the bridge, and once you finish it, you hand over to the agency. You take all the expense, all the risk, all the time involved in the construction process. And if that agency is from an international background, we call that as a strategic alliance called turnkey. Okay, so that is what we mean by turnkey or turn the key projects. Till its completion, that's being done through a strategic alliance. Maybe the reason could be that we do not have technology, or we do not have that much competency, or maybe that the particular agency which we have assigned would have been an expertise, or they would have excelled in that particular field, or it can be that such an alliance can reduce the overall cost involved in that project. The reasons can be many, but this is what happens to turnkey projects. Okay. Now the next one is counter trade. Counter trade is something that happens normally with those countries who are coming under the category of emerging economies, because developed nations, they have many upper hands even in trade and related practices. But when we look into emerging economies, some of them really face difficulty with the cost structure involved in the production and distribution of many aspects. So what they do is they engage in a counter trade. In a way, it's a barter system. If payment would be done, not the, as we say, not just the exchange of goods as it happens in a conventional barter system, but what is happening here is, if there is an alliance between two different agencies in two different nations, okay, and the agreement would be, if you are going to purchase this much quantity of, say, product A, in return, we will be going with purchase of this particular aspect. Say, Gulf countries, they would be selling oil, and they actually are in high demand for all other necessary items. So they may actually come up with this counter trade where the other countries would be supplying the items that are necessary for the economy to develop. So this is actually a counter trade that is happening between two nations, where they agree to have mutual purchase of some items which they have decided at the beginning of the contract. Say country A will be agreeing to purchase product A, okay, and country B would have agreed to purchase product B in return. So that's actually a counter trade. You purchase this, we are going to purchase that what you had offered. So this is actually a counter trade. And in fact, the basic objective in this category would be to have some kind of trade advantage, because you might be an expert in a product, in a certain product categories, but you do not have a competitive advantage in many other products. So you try to find out an alliance with a company, with a country, of course, with an agency, who are having some kind of competitive advantages with those products for which you do not have it. So both of you come together, and then that happens to be in the mode of counter trade. So that is 1 to 1. Okay. And then the third one which we are going to discuss, it's called as EPRG framework, which is very popular. It was proposed by Howard and Wind in 1969. Okay, and this EPRG framework is just, if you are just expanding it, it would be ethnocentric, polycentric, or regionocentric, or geocentric, regiocentric, or geocentric alliances. So that's what. Now we are going to explain what is this ethnocentric, what is this polycentric, regiocentric, and as well as geocentric. It's very easy to understand. Ethnocentric orientations are basically towards domestic markets. They believe that first you have to meet the demand of the domestic market before you think of establishing your business in a foreign market. So the entire product planning or service planning of these nations would be based on national demand. They would be designing their product or service based on the requirement coming up from the national markets, from their domestic markets. And they feel that these products may be equally needed for other nations. So they, without much modifications, they are offering the same product to other countries. Their orientation is they are looking into the demand coming up from the domestic market. So that's why we say that ethnocentric. We believe that the need of the people who go with this ethnocentric orientation, they believe that they should be first satisfying the demand of the domestic markets. And of course, if they have some surplus, that may be taken to an international market. So your production, entire production is based on the demand coming up from the domestic market. That's ethnocentric. Okay. Now, polycentric is just the opposite of it. Your idea is multinational. You want to be a multinational corporation, and you know that if you offer the same type of product, what you produce in your domestic market to different markets, you may not be able to sell your product. See, the best example is, I have my personal experience. See, McD. If I'm buying a burger that is being given to, that's been supplied by McD here in India, okay, and if maybe I'm traveling out, when I'm buying the same thing, I have the experience when I bought the same the product with more or less same specific. I normally buy vegetarian, veg category. So I buy, there is taste difference. There is content difference. The ingredients are different. The way in which these are being kept, or as you say, the product being bundled is different. The same when I purchase that from a shop in Singapore. That is, they are designing their product, in this case burgers, suiting to the taste preference of people in a country. The type of oil they use, the type of sauces they use will vary, will be different. The type of vegetables they use will be different from market to market, suiting to the tastes and preferences of people of that country. So there is no uniform policy. There is no uniform product. Everything would be based on the demand, the taste, the preferences, the market conditions of that particular country in which they are placing their product. There is no uniform control of the product line of a particular country. So that's what we call as polycentric orientation. Multinational. That's very easy to understand. It's multinational. Okay. Now, regiocentric is a different concept. Here, what they believe is definitely they are producing for domestic markets. Okay. They are looking into the demand. They are actually trying to satisfy the demand from the domestic market. But along with that, they are trying to identify regions that can have some similarity with their domestic market. And they're trying to place the product over there. So for example, a company in US may be looking into market of Canada or Mexico to place a product, assuming that there is regional similarity between these three nations. They're not producing, they are not making major changes in the products or services, but they are offering that to regions which have some kind of similarity with their domestic market. Such orientation is what we call as regiocentric. So regions being identified which have some similarity to the basic market of operation and the product being placed here. Geocentric is above all these. Geocentric is with the tagline, I would say with the tagline, go global. Whatever they are producing, they would be looking from a holistic view, a macro view. They want the product and services suitable to the global market. They are not looking into one market, one region. In fact, for them, one market is global economy. So they are producing the product based on with an intention that is going to satisfy the needs of people around the globe. So that's very macro. There are limitations to this orientation, but certain products, say for example, technology. Like technology, when you come up with a technology, you're looking into different possibilities. Say when Microsoft is coming up with, they come up with it, the technology. If you're going to use that in Windows, this is it. If you're going to go with Apple, this is it. The different software. If you're going with using open source operating system, you can use this. So technology in such a way that it is suitable to all types of operating system you are having. So that's uniform. I mean, that's something which is macro, which the orientation is, it should be suitable to all class of customers coming across the globe. It may not be possible to all the products and services, but the orientation will depend upon the type of products and service you are having. So that's about geocentric. Here you have a global market. Your product will be produced suiting to the requirement of the global market. Maybe you will have some variations, but your ultimate aim is the basic product should be applicable to global economy. Say some software companies, when they develop a banking software to be used in banks, they take care of banks of different localities, and then they come up with a master model. Okay, they come up with a master model to be used in banks across the globe with slighter modification, and that they will be doing at the time of implementation. They might be having their representatives might be traveling to the place of implementation, and they will adapt the same to the existing condition. But broadly, the product might be suitable to the banking system as a whole, no matter whether it is in India or whether that is in US, or because the policy is different. So they have made that flexible enough to adapt to different policy conditions and to different tax regime. So that is the concept of geocentric orientation. So in our today's class, we were looking at the strategic alliances, and in that we discussed primarily three models. One is turnkey projects, second one is counter trade, and the third one is EPRG framework. Turnkey here, what we have to remember is one agency who will be taking care of the development of the product or service until it is ready, and then it is given to a party who have given with sometimes the party may not be there. They will come into play only once they finish with the product. They try to advertise it, like the construction. They construct it, and then they will advertise that you have apartments here available at this price. Interested parties can come in, like this. Sometimes it might be a project that is given to them. And when in such a case, when the alliance is between a national and an international body, we say that it happens to be in the international business. Okay. Counter trade is one for other. You purchase something from us, in return, we will also purchase something where you have the competitive advantage. So one for the other. That's counter trade. EPRG framework, I just said, it's actually a framework which defines different international operations or orientations, where we talk about ethnocentric, polycentric, regiocentric, and geocentric. Ethnocentric is domestic market oriented. Polycentric is multinational. Every market is considered in its own, with its own characteristics and features, and products and services are designed for the same. So the one market definitely for these countries would be different from the other. Then regiocentric is basically you try to look into the domestic demand, and then you try to identify those markets that have resemblance with your national or domestic market, and you try to place your product in those product or services in those markets. Geocentric is the tagline which you have to remember always is go global. They produce the product considering the global market, and for them, the only one market which is present would be the global economy or global market. So that's why your product or service would be suitable enough to satisfy the demands of the global economy, maybe with slight modifications, right? These are the strategic alliances part which we have discussed in our today's class. In tomorrow's class, we will go detail into the different aspects of implementation of international business, right?